want to bother anyone, but I think they might be dying.
Hi everyone, it's Rachel here at the Ditch the Diet podcast, and a very warm welcome to what is going to be a really great episode. So this episode is part of the Inspiring Stories series that we started last year, and actually I think this is the first one that we've done in ages of our Inspiring Stories series. So we're moving away from the sort of nutrition and weight loss realm today, just for today's podcast. And I'm speaking to a very good friend of mine, Claire Summers. Claire is what we class as a digital nomad. 2 years ago, Claire packed all of her things into a backpack and left the UK in search of a new life in Central and South America. And 2 years have passed now. Claire has been out there doing her thing. And we talk about what it was, what the catalyst was for her to make such a big change in her life. And also to help you understand how you can make a really big or a really small change in your life if you have something that's gnawing away at you that you want to do. Maybe you want to change jobs, buy a new house, move locations, I don't know, whatever it is that you want to do, even if it's like a small thing. I guarantee that you're going to feel more motivated and inspired after listening to Claire's story from her whole life, but especially over the last 2 years. So grab a brew, sit back, relax, enjoy this interview. And as always, I'll be back at the end to tell you a little bit more about where you can find out about Claire's journey. So for the benefit of the listeners, let's say, I always start by saying, if you were stuck in a lift with someone and they asked you what you did and you had 60 seconds to tell them before the lift opened, what would you say?
This has always been the hardest question for me because I've never just done like one thing. I always do so many things. So I suppose right now, if I had 1 minute to introduce myself, I would say that I am a full-time traveler, digital nomad, kind of travel writer, occasional yoga teacher, and lover of all things Latin America right now.
Did you say where you are right now?
I'm in Mexico. Right now I'm in Mexico. I've been in Latin America for 2 years, and I'm just about to leave in the next month to change continents for a little while. But yeah, right now Mexico.
Okay. And how long have you been on the road for now in total?
It'll be 2 years in December since I left the UK.
And we'll start from now and we'll kind of work our way back, I think. Or perhaps it would be best if we just jumped all the way back to...
Let's go all the way back.
Let's go all the way back, start from there, and then we can talk about what brought you to make the decision to leave the UK and sell all your shit.
Yeah.
And just go. And by the way, for those of you that are listening, it's Claire's fault that I sold all my shit last December. I went to Australia and fucked that up.
Sell everything.
So, when were you born? No, not that far back.
I am from Liverpool originally, although you can't really tell by my accent. But I think I've always been someone who struggles to make a change, and then when I finally do make a change, it's always quite shocking and like, what the hell? Like I was trained to be a ballerina. I was trained to be a dancer, and then I injured in my knee, and then kind of my entire career like just got completely derailed at like 16, 17. My heart was broken, didn't know what to do. And then kind of spiraled a bit, and then ended up doing lots of random jobs, just like lots of different things, and somehow ended up in the military, which was a complete shock for everyone. And I just spent like 5 years in the Royal Navy, moved to the other side of the country, and it was a real kind of shock to people. So I kind of lived quite independently from my family for 14 years, and did lots of different things. Ended up going back to university and studying dance, setting up a dance company and working as a producer, which I think kind of is where everything else comes from, because I became really good at making things happen. And whatever, like, as when you're a producer, you just have to make stuff happen. Like, you just have to create things and find a solution for problems. And I really enjoyed that, until I didn't anymore. I wanted to leave.
Was there something in particular that happened, or was it just like a sort of gradual progression?
I think I always wanted to travel, but because of my circumstances, I never felt like I was able to, mostly because of money, because I was in debt. Pretty much from the age of 18 when I was able to. I had issues with keep hold of money, and like given a credit card at 18. And although it wasn't a huge amount of debt, it felt like a lot to me. And the thought of kind of just like, I couldn't just kind of take off and go to another country, because I felt, I had to pay bills and stuff, and I lived independently from 17. So it just kind of never happened. And then I travelled with the Navy, and I loved that. I loved the unpredictability of the job, that I was never, I had a really regular job, but I got to travel around all the time. And then when I kind of came off the ship and went back to university and then set the company up, although I loved the variety in the job, I didn't want to just stay in one place. Like, I felt like there was so much more out there that I just always wanted to move. And I felt like I was being really ungrateful with my life, because I had the best, like, the people I worked with were amazing. I had my own company. It was really successful. I was really successful. I was working on national projects, and like my career profile, everything was really good, but I was just so unhappy. Like, I was just like deeply unhappy. My anxiety was flaring up. I was having migraines all the time. I was on medication for depression. I was on beta blockers for the migraines. Like, my work life was amazing. My personal life was a mess. And it kind of went on like that for a long time, until someone, like my best friend who actually took over my company, turned around and was like, "What do you want to do?" I was like, "Oh." She's like, "Because you just need to make a decision, and the rest of us is just going to have to sort it out. Like, we'll just have to like deal with it.
Yeah.
You've got to do what's best for you. Like, you're clearly not happy. Like, what do you want to do? You just need to tell us." And I was like, "Oh, well, I want to go."
Wow.
I was like, "I want to leave." She's like, "Okay, then we're going to make it happen." So I kind of had a year to like exit myself from my life.
Wow.
And yeah, so there was definitely there was a plan in place. I had people who kind of were there to support me, and although it was messy, you can't tie your life up in a bow and just leave. Like, it doesn't work like that.
No.
But having someone who was like, kind of taking that guilt away from me almost, just being like, "It's okay. If you want to go, you go." Like, that's it.
I think sometimes when you have like that niggle in the back of your mind about something that you want to do, or you just know that you're not happy but you're not sure why, and you take a step back and you look at your life and you think, well, I've got this, I've got money, I've got a job, I've got this. On paper it looks like I should be like totally content with what I've got. But there's always this niggle that just goes, but actually doesn't matter whether it says on paper that you should be happy. If there's something in your gut that's telling you that this is not it, this doesn't have to be it, then it's always going to be there. Like, for me, it was like a little tiny like paper cut that just kept like opening the wound every now and again, just reminded me that it was still there. Was that what it was like for you?
Yeah, definitely. Like, actually, there was a little bit more to it, in that I was in this really like ridiculous relationship with a guy. I've been with him for like a year, and it was absolutely a relationship of convenience. We lived together in a house, and honestly, like, I didn't even really like him that much. He was just really hot. Like, he looked like Gerald Butler from 300 when he was he was kind of stupid. And I was like writing a PhD application at the time, and this guy's just like, oh, protein. So, I mean, the whole thing was ridiculous because I hadn't been in a relationship for so long. I was like, okay, maybe I'll just go with this. And he was like talking about like freaking kids and like introducing me to his family, and like I kind of went on this like ridiculous journey with this guy that I wasn't even that into. And like it got to the point where I'd actually like, I know it sounds stupid, like, but just to like upheave your entire life just because you feel like it didn't feel like a good enough excuse for me. But because he wanted to leave, like I nearly moved to fucking Didcot. Didcot. I mean, what exactly? It's by Oxford. It has do you know what it's famous for? Having a nuclear power station. Wow. Like I nearly moved to like this sleepy little Oxford town with a nuclear power, and I was like, holy shit. So I kind of went through, I was like, but you know, that's acceptable because that's socially acceptable for a woman in her 30s to give up her entire life to go chasing off around the country after some guy that she doesn't even really like that much. So I felt like that was okay. So I'd quit my job. I'd kind of told my best friend that I was moving out of the house, and I'd gone through this whole process. And then the bastard cheated on me. And I found out, and it sent me into this like spiral. Like I like had panic attacks, and I literally just left. I like got on a train and I went home to Liverpool because I was like, whew. And then it was like 4 days later, and something just clicked in my brain, and I was just like, this had nothing to do with him. I didn't even like him. I just wanted to leave. Like I just wanted to leave, and he was my excuse. It would have got to a year down the road, and I would have been so unhappy with him because I am bigger than this. Like I always felt like I needed to do something more with my life. I needed to do something big, and I was constantly trying to make myself small. Like I was just going to go and just do what he wanted me to do, and go and live in this like little village of this big nuclear power plant, and not even have a job, and like what was I even thinking? And I never gave him a second chance after that, because then I realized I wanted to go, and I was like, okay, I need to make this happen. And then with the other stuff, that was what triggered it for me. That was what made me realize that this had nothing to do with him. I just wanted to leave. And because I'd already started the process of like, I'd handed my notice in with my job, and I'd given notice on my flat, like kind of some wheels were already in motion. So there was already movement there. So it wasn't like it was such a big, like, for everyone to be like, I was like, okay, I'm still going to go, but I'm not going to Didcot. I'm going to Guatemala now.
Well. So you left on the 6th of December?
Yeah, I left on like the 6th of December, and I actually took a friend with me. I went to my mom's in the States, and I have a friend who like, she's like a magical fairy. She appears every time my life is in like a real transitional place, and I think I kind of do the same for her. And she's also had her like battles of mental health stuff. And she flew over to the States with me and stayed with me for a week and gave me like a week of therapy as well, because she does role thing. And I had really bad anxiety and fear about flying, and I had lots of fear. And she literally like did these sessions she's like my friend. She just did these sessions with me every day and kind of made me confront some quite uncomfortable things. But I think it was really random, but it was really beneficial, like just having someone there who literally held my hand through the first week in this transition. And then when she left, like I just had some time like with my mum just to like chill and kind of sort my stuff out and kind of make peace with my decision to go and just relax a bit.
So wait a minute, you had fear of flying.
Yeah.
And you decided to
become
a full-time nomad.
Even I couldn't even walk upstairs. Like, you know, if you could see through the stairs, I couldn't even walk through stairs. And at this point, I had crippling anxiety. I had migraines that were so bad that I was constantly having to phone my friends to come and rescue me, because I'd be out driving and I'd be trying to get home, and then it would become so bad I'd lose my vision. And it was all stress related. Like all of it was stress related. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go move to Guatemala
because
on my
that's
own.
not stressful. Honestly, we sound in personality so similar. It's just unbelievable sometimes. I think, what? So you were in the States for a while, and then you started this journey on your own.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's scary because, like, I've done that as well. In fact, I've done it a few times in my life since I was 18. And it's quite literally the scariest thing I think I've ever done. And obviously I'm not travelling anymore. I'm sort of based in Glasgow now. But it's indescribably scary. But it's also really, really, really exciting as well. Yeah. And like you, I left a lot of responsibilities behind. And starting fresh when you think, I mean, let me just give you some context if you're listening. I had the perfect storybook life as well. I had a partner, a house, my business. Everything was just hunky-dory from the outside looking in. But I was so unhappy. It was unbelievable. And I was so scared to say anything because I thought, everyone's going to be like, but Rachel, look what you've got. Like, and it's so scary to make that move. What was the thing that kept you moving towards what you wanted, what you ultimately wanted? What got you through the fear of going through the shit to get to the good?
Because I think one of my biggest issues is that it was another friend actually who made me realize this. Like one day where like I just had a complete breakdown, like really inappropriate in a work meeting, and I just like, she asked me, when someone asks you like probably the right question but at the wrong time, and that was it. And she was like, what is this? I was like, I really need to feel needed all the time. Like I need to feel needed. And what that always seems to end up as being is me almost like tying myself into things so that I feel like I can't get out. And then I get claustrophobic, and then I start freaking because I can't get out because I've made myself so like important to that situation or to that person or to that thing. And it's all in my head. Like I know the world doesn't revolve around me, and that, but I think like I knew that the only way that I was going to get better and that I was going to be able to deal with my issues was to completely untie myself from everything. So no matter how terrifying that felt, I knew that it could not be any worse than how I was feeling, like than what I was doing and these patterns that I got myself into. The only way I was ever going to change my life was by breaking this cycle and completely releasing myself from everything. And if that meant I was going to have to get on a plane to Guatemala, then that was what I was going to do. I mean, I had no savings at this point. I had maybe £500, and I paid for like a Spanish course. So I was living with a family for 3 weeks because I didn't speak any Spanish as well. And I think the moment that I knew it was the right decision for me. So for maybe if you ask any of my friends who know me, who knew me from the UK, who have been on a flight with me, normally it involves Valium and alcohol, and like me completely like off my tits, like to be able to cope with flying. Otherwise I'd be like hyperventilating, crying, like squeezing people's arms. I was a complete mess. So I get on the fast flight and I'm feeling, a little bit unnerved, but it's okay. And then it was the second flight as I was coming into Guatemala. Like, it's the most beautiful country. And I was like flying over these volcanoes, and I had a window seat, which I never normally have because I don't want to look out the window. I don't want to know that I'm up in the air. Like, it's horrendous. And as I was landing for the first time, I made myself look out that window, and it felt like I felt utterly at peace. And I just cried. I'm not like, oh my God, what have I done? Like, cry. It was literally just like tears were like just leaking from my eyes, and I felt so at peace. and like I was arriving home. And I can't tell you why, but ever since then, I am absolutely fine on flights. I have no problem flying. I have no problem with heights. And I don't know whether it was because of what happened, what Hayley did to me about the treatment, but I think it was a mix of that, and also that I'd been holding on to so much fear about letting go of stuff that when you let go of everything, when you completely give in to the universe, that what else is there to be scared of? What's left to be in fear of? And I think I just released it. I just let go of everything. It's like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep holding on to stuff. Just let it go. And what will be, will be. If I'm going to die in a plane crash, then I'm going to die. But I just let everything go as I landed there, and I just knew it was the right decision. No matter what would happen from now, that this was absolutely the right decision for me.
That's such an amazing thing to hear, and it reminds me of why I did it as well, despite not lasting as long.
But I don't. Do you know what though? I don't think that's even an issue. I was kind of at peace with it. I remember having a conversation with my mum. So my mum's a little I get a lot of stuff from my mum, definitely. And when she was 54, 55, she moved to the United States, because she fell in love with a guy who she met online dating.
Wow.
But they'd been dating for he'd been traveling over to the UK, she'd been going over to the States. They'd been together for a long time. She finally got a job. And her family, my aunties were not happy. They were you can't leave, you can't sell your house. And I was like, Mum, it's just a house. Go. It doesn't work out, you don't like it, you come back. It's just a job, it's just a house. It's not your life, it's not who you are. You can get all these things back. It's better to go and try something and then realize that it's not for you than to always have those questions. And I always knew that, and I always wholeheartedly believed that. And I thought, I'm not going to lose anything. Where I am right now, I'm not happy. So if I go and I have an experience and I decide it's not for me and I come back, that's okay. Because when I come back, I'm going to come back with new knowledge and new, I'm always going to come back with something. So that the idea about coming back never felt like a failure to me. It was always just going to be part of the journey. I mean, maybe I go to Guatemala for 3 months and then I decide to get home so I can come back. Fine.
Yeah.
I never, I don't see that as a failure. I see, it's all success and it's all learning and it's all life.
Yeah.
It just so happens that actually for me personally, I discovered that this is how I want to live right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not forever. I don't want to be moving around the world every 6 months for the rest of my life. I'm sure that's gonna get boring. But for now, it's okay.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your travels. Where have you been so far?
So probably, I've been to lots of different places, but the 3 countries that have had the biggest impact on me have been Guatemala, which is a country I literally went there because it was cheap to learn Spanish. That was it. I knew nothing about Guatemala other than it had a civil war, and my uncle spent some time in a Guatemalan jail this one time when he was in the army. And that was literally it. I knew nothing. So I rock up in Guatemala, end up in this, living with an indigenous family and basically a shanty town for the first 3 weeks, in a place called Lake Ataclan, which is surrounded by volcanoes. I hated Spanish. I hated my teacher. I had I was crying all the time. My website went down. I had so many problems. And then when I arrived in a place called Antigua, and originally I hated that too. I was doing this work away and it was really pants and just really didn't like it at all. And then I went to a yoga class and met this amazing woman from Chicago. And when you just meet someone, you're it's all going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like that as soon as I met her. And then I moved over to another hostel, ended up working doing social media management for them, and basically ended up in Guatemala for 9 months teaching. I became a yoga teacher, worked in a yoga school, and by the time I left Guatemala, I was so sad. I cried for a week before I left Guatemala. I didn't want to go at all. I just completely fell in love with the country. I had so many amazing experiences. I was in like 3 major earthquakes that's surrounded by active volcanoes. I've been on top of a volcano that's been exploding.
Oh my God.
Sometimes at night time you don't know if it's an earthquake, if it's a volcano, if it's just thunder and lightning. Like, the country is so alive. And I had so many, like, it was like a complete spiritual awakening for me being there, and I just learned so much about myself and let go of so much stuff that it's like Guatemala's had such an impact on me that now I'm just like, I'm a really calm person, and I'm much happier because of the experiences I had in Guatemala. But it was the first country I went to, and I was meant to be there for like 3 weeks to 3 months. And 9 months later, I was like, hey, you need to leave now. You can't just stay here. And then I went to Colombia, which was when we kind of first, like, when we really started becoming friends, I think, in Colombia. Because I had a horrible time in Colombia when I first got there.
I remember that, yeah.
Oh, I was in Bogota, and I'd gone, I think I'd become so zen in Guatemala that moving to Bogota, and it was like the elevation kicked my ass, so I felt really sick at first because it was so high up. I was like, Colombia can be a difficult country. They have a saying, no da papaya, like, don't give them papaya, which basically means that you're constantly a target for being robbed. So you don't wear a watch when you're jewelry, you can't walk down the road on your phone, like, you can't do anything. And I got like robbed a few times, and like just that kind of culture about like having to protect yourself all the time was quite difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The weather was very similar to England, and I found it really difficult to deal with, like the rain and the grey. I was living opposite the local drug dealer in a really bad area. I couldn't get a taxi on my own, so I couldn't go anywhere. Like, there were so many things. And it took me and I needed this experience because it took me 2 months to realise, like, there's a quote, you're not a tree, you don't have roots, you can move. I'm like, why am I here? I'm a digital nomad, I don't have to stay here.
Yeah.
Just because I committed to renting this apartment for 3 months, like, no one's gonna, like, what's gonna happen if I leave? Like, she might be a bit annoyed with me, but so what? Like, it's fine. So I just left, and I was like, and then I went to Medellin, and I love Medellin. It's the most amazing city. I learned salsa, and my Spanish improved, and I lived with some really cool people, and I just loved Colombia. It's the most beautiful country in the world. The people are amazing.
Really high on my list of places I'd like to go.
Oh God, it's just amazing. But I kind of accidentally became illegal.
I remember that.
Yeah, I didn't think it, like, most Latin countries are super like chill about visas, and if you run over, you just like bribe someone, or you just like pay a little fine at the airport. You just like slip someone some money, and it's like totally fine. But apparently Colombia is quite a big deal, especially at the moment with like all the issues with Venezuela. So yeah, they didn't like me being, so I had like fingerprints taken, mugshot taken. I had to pay like about $150. And then I wasn't sure if they were going to let me back in when I left. So, and when you go, you basically get like, you have to pay for like a visa to leave.
Right.
And you only get 2 weeks. So you basically, when you go and do it, you get told you have 2 weeks to get out of the country. So they told me if I wanted to, this is like immigration, like if you want to stay here for a bit longer, you just have to go away and become illegal. Just go away and be illegal, and then when you're ready to go, come back and just pay your fine, and then you've got 2 weeks to get out. I was like, what? So, but I need to fly to Santa Marta, and they're like, it's fine. They gave me a letter, like, yeah, we know she's illegal, she's okay. Like,
oh, wow. That's bad, isn't it?
It's a crazy country. And then I didn't know where else to go afterwards, and I needed to like book a flight, so I just came to Mexico because like I love Mexico. It's like super chill, and I mean there's issues here as well. Like the cartels like run around here, and there's like constantly bodies floating in the sea and like turning. But it sounds really bizarre, but I feel way here that I have done in any of the other countries because I'm not particularly a target for crime here, which sounds like crazy. As if you get the like news bulletins, it's like it's all organized crime. Like we went to go to a bar the other day, like me and my friends were like, oh, let's go and play pool, let's go to a sports. So I went there, like the bar had been blown up. I was like, oh yeah, this is the one the cartel blew up the other day.
You do realise that I am a warrior, Claire, and now I'm going to be worried about you.
I will cycle home on my bicycle at like 1 a.m. slightly tipsy from the bar here, and I would never have done that in Colombia. I would never have done that in Guatemala, but here, like, generally speaking, there is some petty crime, but it's way worse, like in the States, I would say. Like, you're more likely to get mugged in like somewhere like New York than you are here. Like, it's opportunistic stuff, but generally, like, it's all organized crime, and it's all known about. Like, everyone knows that, like, all the guys who are selling the tours are also selling the drugs for the cartels, the taxi drivers, like, everyone. It's kind of, it's organized. And exactly, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but because it's so organized, like, tourists are safe here. Like, gringas, we're fine. Like, unless you go looking for the trouble, you're not going to find it. And Mexico is just like a super chill country to come and hang out. And I have like a really nice group of Mexican, European friends, and
so it's all worked out.
Yeah, although I say this, my house definitely did get robbed on Sunday morning. My housemate went out and left the door open, didn't lock the door at like 8:30, and this guy, like, someone ran into the house and grabbed a bag with like $2,000 worth of camera equipment in, but he left the door open.
Oh, that insurance is not going to be happy about that.
Well, no, you can't claim, like, it's his fault. He left the door open, so
not good.
Luckily, he didn't get anything else. Didn't get any of my stuff, thank God, because I would have been screwed. But not cool. But that's like the first major thing that's happened to me, like, crime-wise. Like, I've had other crazy things happen.
I was going to ask you about that. I was going to ask you, what's the craziest thing that has happened since you left?
Probably getting stung by a scorpion 3 times in the night and thinking I was going to die, because there was no way to get medical attention.
Where was that?
Like, just no way. In Guatemala. I was like in this place, Lake Ataclan. I was like in this little village called Sunanan, like on the side of like a little mountain, and the only way to get to a doctor was by a boat and then by road. And it was like in the middle of the night, and so I just lay there kind of thinking that I was probably going to die, because there was no point in waking anyone up, because no one's going to be able to do anything anyway, and there was no way I was going to get medical attention before like a certain time. So if I was going to die, I was going to die.
And did you know that it was a scorpion sting at the time, or did you?
No, I didn't know what it was. Like, I was asleep, I was woken up by something really painful, and it stung me twice in my neck, and then I went to swat it, and it got me in my wrist on my vein. And so the small scorpions that are really common at the lake, and most local people, it's just like a bee sting to them. People have two reactions. It's normally like, the normal reaction is a localized reaction, so it's like a bee sting. It will swell and it will hurt like hell and throb, but you're okay. Or you have a reaction like I have, and it looks like there's nothing happened to you, but it's like a neurological reaction. So my entire body was vibrating, my lips like was swelling and stinging, not swelling, but they felt like they were like pulsating. They went numb, and I couldn't move. All my muscles were contracting. So like every time I went to move, I can only describe it as like, I worked with a lot of people who have cerebral palsy, and the way I was moving was like I didn't have any control over my muscles. And I remember just lying there watching House of Cards on Netflix, like just trying to keep myself calm. And my mum's a nurse, so like, I've always kind of been around the medical profession, so I remember having in my head that the only way that the scorpion stings aren't toxic. The only way I'm going to die is if I have an allergic reaction to it, and I know I'm having an allergic reaction if my airway swells. As long as my airway stays open, I'm probably not going to die, so there's no need to panic too much. So I just knew that I needed to keep myself calm. But the problem was, because it was a muscular thing, that every time I took a mouthful of water, the muscles in my throat would contract, so it felt like my airway was swelling and my breathing was being restricted. So then there was like a moment of panic before it would like relax again and it would be okay. But then I tried to get up and go to the bathroom, and my legs completely gave way and I couldn't move. And like if I moved my arm was like out of control, like flinging around. And then I totally freaked out and woke my dorm room up. I was like, oh my God, that's so British. I'm from Chicago and Irene. who's from El Salvador. They are these two beautiful people that I met in Guatemala who became my yoga teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And like they kind of introduced a lot of yoga philosophy to me, which completely changed my life and the way I look at things. And I realized that so much like unhappiness comes from having ego.
Mm-hmm.
And actually one of the main things that you get from yoga is just, and I got from my teacher training was really spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And had a lot of like the stuff that I'd already been learning in Guatemala that came into it, and it's talking about just like literally letting go of things. Like when I turned up in Bogota, I had $50. Like I had no money. There were times when I was like genuinely starving.
Wow.
And I had to like, I couldn't even afford to buy bread. Like there were some bad times in Bogota. And I just kind of kept on going back to these yogic philosophies of just like whatever is meant to be for you, you will receive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and having to like, even in the darkest moments and when I was just like I can't cope with this anymore, just kind of like just meditating and breathing and trying to remember like if it's meant for you, then you will get it, and just giving into the universe, I think, and not trying to like hold on to things, like keeping my ego in check. Like that's such a big thing. And I think like people like, oh, what do you mean your ego? I mean like when you feel hurt or someone annoys you, like kind of just asking the question, like, what am I really upset about? And normally it's because our ego's been a bit damaged, because we're feeling a little bit rejected or neglected, or you don't like the way someone spoke to you. But it's normally like to do with yourself. And I've always kind of understood that to a point anyway, but getting more into yoga and into yoga philosophy has made that even more obvious. And now, like, I'm human, so I still get those moments of like self-doubt, or I definitely still get the moments of anxiety, and kind of my ego makes me feel a little bit like wounded about stuff, but I'm very, very conscious of it and aware of it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give myself like a day to like be like this, and then I get my shit together again, just get myself back in check, or I get myself to a yoga class, or I like meditate, or like I do a lot of pranayama now as well, which I found is probably the single best thing for keeping me grounded and getting rid of that anxiety, that whenever I'm feeling like just sitting down and doing some breathing exercises like is the most grounding thing that I can do.
Yeah, that really helps me as well, and I often forget just how much it actually helps until I do it again. So just before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you a question that's probably going to take about 3 hours to answer, but never mind. So we've spoken about how you've made like a huge change in your life. Now, I know there'll be a lot of people listening that probably don't want to sell all their shit and go to South America. I'm sure there are people that do, including me, but I'm not going to do that again just yet. What if you want to make a change in your life what should you do if you feel like you felt, and how I felt, that something was just not right, that you were not happy, but you're not 100% sure what it is that you want to do, but you know you're not happy right now. You want to make a change, but you're scared. But what advice would you give to someone that feels like that? I suppose, like how you felt before you made the change.
I mean, honestly, it's really difficult, because I think when you're feeling like that, these changes aren't small.
No, they're not.
Like, they're not small, they're big and they're terrifying. And I think that I was really lucky in that everyone who I spoke to, I think they could see how fragile I was and how unhappy I was. Like they knew that it was like I was not well. And so they were really supportive, and they helped me to get through it. But I think that only comes with me being completely honest. Like I had to go through a period of just being honest about where I'm at. And it in some ways it was easy for me because I had such an amazing relationship with the women I worked with, that I could say to my boss, like, I could talk these things out with my boss, and she was able to like remove her personal, like, she didn't want me to go, like, because she wanted me to take over from her eventually. Like, she always imagined that she, but she was able to separate that and see what was best for me. And my family didn't try and stop me, even though they were like, all my mum and dad really wanted me to like get married and have some children, but they kind of repressed those things, and just either didn't say anything or just like whatever, like, I think my dad probably thinks that I'm still running away, like he and it's not, like, that's not what I'm doing. But I think that the first thing is you have to start being honest with yourself and start being honest with the people around you, because they can only support you if they know how you really feel. And it was through those conversations with them and them asking me the difficult questions, like, what do you want? And me really going, rather than just going, I don't know, I just like, what do I want? And it might be that you just want to change a job. It might be that you want to move somewhere else. I mean, like I said, I've not been a stranger to making crazy life decisions, like joining the Navy. So I think my pattern has been to get myself into a situation where I'm struggling with my mental health, and then the only way for me to get out of it is to make a complete break and a complete change. So I'd done this before. I'd done this when I was 21, when I was as much of a mess. I was having like a raging eating disorder. I was having anxiety all the time. And then I made the decision to join the Navy. I got on the train, and it was the best decision I ever made. So I did that when I was a lot younger. So I think having that previous experience, that was in my head, that like, you've done this before, and it was okay. It worked out before. And it felt like the same process going through it again. But yeah, I think it's about honesty. You need to be honest with yourself and really figure out what you want, and then make that happen. And find those people who are going to be in your corner, who are going to support you to make those changes in your life. Like, I know you see it all the time, about like these bloody life coaches talking about toxic people and getting toxic people out of your life. You can't do that, especially if you've got a toxic parent or you can't, like, it's not that cut and dry. But what you can do is don't go to them for advice.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Find the people who are going to support you. And that might not even be people who you know in real life, like in your act, there might be people that you meet online. There might be people in, like, I think the one place that made me feel, I think safety was a big issue for me, thinking about leaving, like feeling safe as a woman traveling on my own, especially going to Central America. Like, I'm not an idiot. I thought there was going to be danger. I worried about my safety, and I played it down because I didn't want my family to worry about my safety, but I did worry. But discovering, like, I hate this group now because the founder is just a complete egomaniac. But Girls Love Travel. Like, I joined that Facebook group, Girls Love Travel, and for like the lead up to my trip, I saw like so many posts where a girl would get into trouble. She would post in the group. I remember one incident that really stood out. This girl was literally in a hostel in Israel where this guy was trying to break into her room. That they got, like, she was the only person there, and the guy who was working there was like trying to get into her room and wanted to sleep with her. And she was terrified. She didn't want to leave, and she didn't know what to do. And she posted in this group. And within an hour, a girl down the road from another hostel had got that hostel owner to go with her, to pick her up, to break her out of this hostel, take her to the other hostel. And then the next day they posted a picture of the two of them in the Dead Sea, like with the mud masks on, having a great time. And then there was another girl who came off a bike in Thailand and was in hospital on her own. And then and there's pictures of like girls who've gone to her rescue and like gone to hang out with her in the hospital. And I'd seen like how this like online community, how people in real life will go in support of other women, and it made me feel okay. It was like, okay, I might be going out here alone, but I'm not alone. Like, there are other people like me who are on their own, and like, I don't need to worry so much, because if I really get into trouble, I can post in this group and someone will help me.
I found that as well. Like, when I was in Australia and when I got really, really sick in January, in Sydney, I posted in one of those groups. It wasn't that one, I'm not sure what it was called. And, you know, within a couple of hours, I felt really like not alone, even though I was still on my own. You know, there was someone who said, I'm literally 20 minutes down the road. If you need me to go to the pharmacy and pick you up some charcoal or something like that, I can come and, you know, and I think online groups are online support is a really great way for women to find support that they haven't got maybe in real life. And I found that with, you know, with what I do, is that it's not the norm to want to break free from disordered eating of the diet culture. And it's hard to find people in real life that want to support you in that, because most people want to be on a diet, like it's socially normal.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've created here as well, that, you know, the online support is amazing.
And also the groups that are women only, like I'm in like loads of digital nomad groups, and I don't even bother to post in the guy group, the groups that are mixed, because it's like
totally different.
It's a totally different vibe. And although these groups can get, like, the one that I don't use anymore is Girls of Travel, and it's just because, like, it was the way that it's run I didn't like. But there's loads of other, like, female solo traveling groups. The smaller ones I found to be more beneficial. The ones that are more like, and the mixed groups actually, well, like Nomadic Matt runs a really good one. There's a couple of the solo female travel bloggers who run smaller ones, and they're very well policed. Like some of the huge ones that got like 40,000 women in them are good if you need help. But actually, like, I've seen so much racism and like negative stuff in there. But the smaller ones, that special ones that are women only, are like amazingly supportive.
Yeah,
that's definitely it's definitely made kind of going out there on your own and traveling around the world much easier. And actually, I don't ever feel alone when I get to a new place. Like, I've just had, like, I don't like to mix. Like, I'm an anxious person by nature, and I don't really like meeting new people all the time and kind of forming friendship. Like, I find it quite difficult to go and take myself to, like, networking events and stuff. Like, it's not very me. But I've had to start kind of making myself. And here in Playa del Carmen, like, straight away, I met some people, like, going to view a house, and I kind of mixed in some groups, and it's been really good, actually.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And so what's next for you then?
So I am off to Asia, which I'm actually, like, should be super stoked about, but I feel like I'm secretly a very tall, blonde Latina. I can't imagine leaving here, like, I mean, for my mental health, living in Latin America has been so much better because people are so open about stuff. Like, I've been kind of like dating this Argentinian guy. I don't know if you know anything about Argentina, but they have like one of the best approaches to mental health in the world, which is kind of crazy because their economy is crashing at the moment, and they've had, like, there's so many kind of things like that are not so great in the country, and lots of the younger people are leaving at the moment. But their approach to mental health, like, there's no stigma in mental health. And so kind of being with a guy, especially a Latin guy, because if you know anything about Latin men, they're generally quite like, I can't remember the English word. Oh my god, I can't remember the English word for it. Like,
What's the Spanish word? What's the Spanish word?
I'm like machoism, like chauvinist. There you go. They're very like, they think that women should be like in the kitchen, and like they're very controlling. But he's like completely the opposite. Like, I've been having some like women problems, and I had a conversation with my mum last night on the phone. My mum's a nurse, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Should I go and get some more antibiotics? Like, and my mum's husband is like having a freak out at the mention of the word vagina. Like, obviously, hear the conversation. He's like, oh my god. And when I go in and like retell this conversation to Maxie, and he's just like, he doesn't understand what the issue is. Like, why it would be an issue talking about a woman's vagina. Like,
that's so true.
And my experience of like British men, American, like pretty much anyone apart from like that
Imagine
they don't
saying the V word in front of an English man.
They just don't talk about this stuff.
Right out.
He's like, Like, there's none of that at all. I was like, I might need you to have like a look up there to see what was going on. He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Like, I could never, ever say this to a British guy. Will you have a look at my vagina to see if my coil is still where it should be? Like, that would never happen. So it's just been so liberating being here, like where people are so warm and like open about things. And I had like, this was what, like, I think the moment that I realized I was never going to come back to the UK. I went out a few weeks ago on my own to a bar at one night, and I knew there was a salsa band on. There was going to be some salsa dancing. I'd been with a friend and she'd left, and I was quite happily sat there drinking a beer by myself. I'd spotted two Colombians on the dance floor, because you can tell the Colombians where they dance, and there was a band on. I was just happily watching the salsa when this middle-aged Northern English part, like British person, comes and sits down. And do you know what he does, right? He just starts moaning. He starts complaining on the off. God. It's like he's doing me a favour. He sat with me because, you know, a woman couldn't possibly want to be quite happy, content sitting on her own in a bar. Like, that's just not possible. And then, so he's like, he's doing me a favour coming and sitting with me. He doesn't ask permission, just sits down and it's like, oh, you look lonely there. I thought I'd join you. I'm fine. Whatever. And then just starts complaining about Mexicans, complaining about the British weather, complaining about like Mexicans not building his house properly, and just like moaning. And I was just like, would you shut up? You're killing my vibe, dude. Like, just go away. And then like eventually I think he gets the hint that I'm just really unimpressed with him like ruining my evening. And then he gets up and walks off. Then he comes over and he's like, come on, let's go and have a dance. We'll show them. And I'm like, no thanks. And he's like, why? It'll be fun. I was like, it won't be fun for me because I can dance and you clearly can't. He's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Sit here and wait for a cute Latin guy to come over? Pretty much, yeah. And within about 10 minutes, wonders, this really nice guy from Panama City comes down. May I sit down? Yeah, sure. Oh, I'm on my own, you're on your own, so I wondered, do you want to go and do you want to dance? I was like, yeah, okay. Aww. Completely different. Like, and I was talking to a friend, and it's like there's such a different approach to life here. Like, work is not so important. Like, living is more important, and people don't want to complain. People want to go and do things that make them happy. So at nighttime, they'll go and listen to a band. They'll go and dance salsa. They'll have food with friends. Like, there's much more of an emphasis on that, and people live outdoors. Like, they sit on their doorsteps and talk to strangers. Like, but because it's warm, like, we're outdoors all the time because we're warm here. And I think in the UK, like, we lose a lot of that because it's cold and we just want to be in our houses.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I think there's a lot.
The British moan thing, like.
Oh man, I really try so hard not to moan, but you know, it's built in. I'm from Glasgow. Well, we talk about the weather like every other like hour of the day. Like, oh man, it's pure pissing down out there. Oh yeah, so it is. Like it's some sort of surprise.
We talk, isn't it? It's like, give you something to talk about. We'll just complain about something.
Talk about
and I'm like, I don't do that anymore because like people would just think I was awful if I did that here. Like, why are you so negative?
Yeah, I think that like travelling is something that knocked that out of me a long time ago. But I'm certainly the odd one out over here. So
I do like a good moan though, so you know, I'm British.
God, yeah, love a good moan.
But I only do that with my British friends. Like oh, when this is happening,
yeah, totally.
Get out every now and again.
And so, if anyone wants to, and I'm sure everybody does, we want to find out more about your travels, and we want to read about where you are and what you're up to. You have a website that is incredibly good.
So my website is mostly like, I write some stories on there, but I don't write a lot. Like, I have a lot of stories, like especially been collecting a lot here in Mexico.
Yeah,
Mexican prisons and like all that. So I'm writing a book at the moment, which I've just finished writing a book about kind of It's almost like a self-help book for someone who wants to make these changes in their life, who wants to become a digital nomad. And it's specifically for women like of a certain age, like over 30, like kind of late 20s, 30s, who want to sell all their shit and go and become a nomad. And probably most of my most up-to-date stories, bit of anecdotes I write on Instagram, on my Instagram posts. I share quite a lot on there. And then every now and again on my blog, I'll write kind of funny stories, but it's mostly travel guides and stuff on the blog. And then I have Facebook as well. So it's Claire's Itchy Feet.
I will link to that in the show notes. So if anyone wants to find you, I'll probably put the link to Instagram in there first, and then I'll link your website and things as well.
And I'm vlogging a lot more now as well. I've started getting my face in front of the camera. I went through a whole thing of not wanting to be in front of the camera, and Claire's Itchy Feet wasn't really about me. I was just writing travel guides, and then I realized I needed to get in front of the camera. So I have been making videos.
Another fear that you have overcome then.
Yeah.
The fear of the
Teaching
camera.
English online helped. That sitting for 4 hours a day, having to stare at myself, teaching being a children's entertainer effectively, really changed that for me. And I'm much more comfortable in front of the camera now.
That's awesome. Thank you for giving up your time today.
Thank you.
And it's been awesome talking to you and finding out more about you as well. And I'm sure we might do a part 2, and maybe another couple of years' time we can come back, see where you are.
I've been in Asia. I'm planning on just hang out in ashrams and going to silent retreats. So I'm going to come back like Buddha.
Wow, that sounds great. Well, not for me, because there's no way I can shut up for longer than 5 minutes. I talk way too much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your company today. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend Claire. Claire is the reason, well, she's not the reason actually. She's the inspiration behind a lot of the travelling that I did last year when I upped and left and went to Australia for 6 months. And I know I touched on some of that throughout this episode, and I've never really spoken about it before. So you might not have really understood what I was talking about there. But what I might do is do another episode on the Inspiring series to tell you a little bit about my solo travels, so that you can, find out and bring yourself up to speed. But another big thank you to Claire. I hope that has inspired you to create change in your own life if that's something that you want to do. And just a little note from me, there is something that you want to do in your life, no matter what it is. Doesn't matter how small or how big, or what age you are or where you are in your life. I just want you to know that it is possible to make a change. It's never too late. It's always, always okay to change your mind. No matter what people say, no matter what society says, and no matter what is expected of you, I just want you to remember that if you want to make a change, it's absolutely okay to change your mind. So on that note, thank you very much for listening. I'll see you next week for another episode of the Ditch the Diet podcast. If you want to find me, just go to ditchthedietacademy.com, and if you want some information about the Academy, just go to that website and click on the Academy at the top of the website or on the little list at the side. And I'll add some links into the show notes of where you can find Claire, and also where you can find out more information about the Ditch the Diet Academy if that's something that you want to do. See you next week. Have a good weekend. Take care. Speak to you soon.